time to put in the races. Yeah. I already put the inner one and put them on ice for about 2.5 hours. Then I brought this ice pack out. And then I put antifreeze, anti-seize around the race and the inside. And then you have to make sure to line it up, you know, really on tap, because you can't let one side go in before the other side, so it's all wonky. So I had a little bit of trouble of one side going in before the other side. So you have to make sure it's flat. So just barely tap on it to begin, and then stop and check your alignment, make sure everything's good, and then you could give it the big hammer. And then it goes in pretty easy since it's cold. Okay, so I'm now at a point where I could start focusing on the carrier and pinion and installing it. And so what that means is shims. So the carrier that came out of the axle, which was this one, which is a 28 spline, had some existing spacers, and these are them, left and right, the shims. And so I measured them, and I kind of went back and forth, you know, because so it came out to a total of around 552.552. And then the donor carrier, which came out of the Explorer, also had shims, came out of it. And these are the shims, and it was basically, the first one was pretty close, 0.265, and this one is a 0.280 for a total of 545 versus 552. So that's what I'm working with. Of course, the rebuild kit comes with extra shims, and so I did a test fit with the carrier to make sure that it was true, and I had a dial and making sure that it was not going past 3 thousandths or 30 thousandths, I should say. And to shim it in there, both of these were very tight, and I didn't want to really jam them in there. And you know, the first time, I'm not exactly sure how hard you need to tap those shims in, what's too hard and what's not. So I went with the kit, and I took the first one down to 262 for a total of 542, and that was a tap in where you could put the carrier in and tap it in. I probably can go up to 545 if I really wanted to, but well, we'll see whenever I'm doing the ring and the matching of the pinion gear. So speaking of the pinion gear, I have a setup bearing already on there. It's kind of hard to show you with one hand, but it does come off. Yeah, see. So I could take that on and off easy if I need to change shims, which the shim that came out of the axle, that's the 308, is 025, and the shim that came out of the donor, I think, was the same. So that seems to be, everything online, that seems to be like the starting point. So I got a feeling that's going to be the one. Okay, so I'm prepping for the pinion gear install, and so I purchased a torque wrench that was in inch pounds. The first one I got was a foot pounds. So this was from AutoZone. It was like 24 bucks, but they had it. So I was pretty happy I got it. And then I looked at it. I'm like, what? You know, it's the smallest, you know, socket size. So in my this is not the exact size of the socket I use, but this is an example. You know, that's the size that, what was that, 1/2 inch? So I have to get, you know, from there to there. And I could buy adapters, but I'm sick of buying stuff, little bitsy things. So I made one with my little MIG, or this is a flux core right now. And this is an old 1/2 inch elbow guy. That these are really cheap, and it broke right when I first tried to use it with the impact. So, but I kept it around. And then here I have an old socket that I picked up from the junkyard, and has that end. So now that will fit onto there. And then this will fit onto there. So anyway, building some tools on the way. That's kind of the fun part of it too, is, you know, if you have time, you're not in a hurry, you could do stuff like that, kind of play around. Alright, so I'm at the final assembly of my pinion bearing, or the pinion. And I have it at 20 inch-pounds with the new nut, new crusher, crush washer, and with the new nut and new crush washer, even getting it to the point where it doesn't have any play in it is a lot. It takes a lot more torque just to get to that point. And just to let you know, because I guess it's, you know, it's a new bolt and a new crush washer, so it took some time. What I did is I put a little dot here, and then I had my socket, and I had my impact wrench to tighten it, and I would judge this hole against that line to see how far it went. Now I have a pretty weak air compressor. In fact, let me show you. There it is. I mean, that thing is a baby, and it's a Harbor Freight line, and so I wasn't worried about over torquing it, because that thing is, I mean, it's very weak. And one thing, you got to know your tools, and I know that impact wrench and air compressor, so I know basically whenever I got it tightened, I would go in like a and that would move it about 5 inch-pounds every time. And so that's what I did. I couldn't even figure out a way to try to get a breaker bar on this thing with it, you know, on the ground. So I tried a couple of combinations, but they just didn't work. And whenever I was doing my test setup, this seemed to work pretty good. And I kind of did a look on the internet and who was doing it and who was not. And most of them say don't do it, but then when you got to the professionals, they were doing it. Some of them would cut out the video before they would tighten it all the way. But some of them would show you, and they would just, they know their tools. They go, you know, and they would know it. So, and if something goes bad, I mean, geez, I could, you know, take it apart and put it back together now that I know how to do that. Used gears, so that's probably why they're so flat. You know, I've seen some where they're just, you know, right in the middle. It's where they contact. But like I said, this compound that came with this kit, it's like white grease. It's not like the paint that sticks. It's like it just gets too thin, so I can't really see the pattern very well, but that's what I have to go with. and my backlash is at 9 to 10. And so I think I found my setup. Alright, I'm doing my test pattern, and that's the drive side, which is pretty much right in the middle, a little high but not on the edge, so I am going with it. The coast side is in the middle. So, and I decided to use this the yellow gear marking compound. The other gear marking compound that came with the kit, which was white, is you couldn't see anything. It looked like it was, you know, took off everything. So this gives a lot better pattern, but it's hard to find. You can't find it at Napa, or I guess you could order it from there, but you can't find it like at O'Reilly's or AutoZone. I had to get it from Summit Racing, which I have one not too far from me, so I was able to pick it up. Okay, so I got my 31 spline axles from Summit Racing. I got the Alloy USA. So, oh no! Well, at least it's not China. But anyway, this is what I'm putting in. Here are the new axles. I'm about to put the wheel studs in them, and I counted them to make sure they're 31 spline, and I already test fitted them into the carrier. This one has an 8 on it. Kind of made me nervous. Thought, uh-oh, I got 28 spline, but I counted them, and it is 31. The length seems good. So now I need to get that set up to press in the studs or bang them in with the hammer, but I'll probably use my shop press because I have one. Okay, the wheels are on, the diff has fluid. About to let it on the ground, torque it down, go for a test drive. See if it works out all right.